Lombok is home to some of the most extreme seafoods and fishing practices in the entire world.
Not great, really not a great start, but...
And at the center of all of it is the shark trade. So today we're exploring one of Asia's largest sharking ports to see firsthand how it operates. How does it work? Who's buying the fins? Who's selling? And why is it still thriving despite the global backlash, especially local? And yet, I'll be eating one of the world's most controversial foods here because to me, in Lombok at least, it kind of operates in a little bit of a moral grey zone. Because what they do with these giant sharks, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Let's roll. First though, Bau Nyale is a festival conducted in Lombok once a year.
I'm really not sure exactly what the deal is. What I believe the goal is to catch and eat some sea worms. Let's go explore.
It's just a sea of people. Thousands descend on this beach around midnight, and it's just chaos. It's electric. It's something kind of between a festival and a battleground.
Hi guys, so we have some assistants today. We have Theo, and thank God, because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
With them just now.
Hi guys, so we're basically wading out now onto this sort of rocky outcrop. I did not bring any reef shoes because I'm a moron.
And every time a new set of waves rolls in, the locals start shouting curse words into the night. They swear, they yell, and it's kind of all part of the ritual. Supposedly, it draws in even more Nyale worms. There are two colors of worms, the green and the reddy brown. You'll spot a few of them wriggling around in the rock pools, but that's not what you're here for. What you want is a net full of them, a proper haul that will come in with a set of waves.
If you ask me, I think we have very little shot of catching absolutely anything. There must be tens of thousands of people on this beach, all after the same thing, few measly sea worms. But we should do our best.
So what the hell is going on here anyway? These are Palola verdis, or if you're in Lombok, just Nyale. They are a worm found all over Asia and the Pacific in places like Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, and obviously here in Indonesia. These worms aren't just another oddity of the ocean. They are the center of this wild, natural phenomenon that is the center of an ancient culinary celebration. For about a week in February, nature puts on one of the most bizarre shows.
Essentially, there is a sand bridge that is going to open up, a sandbank as this tide recedes. And our goal, our strategy, it seems, is to kind of progress our way in that direction.
These worms, usually lurking in the depths of the seafloor, somehow know exactly when the time is right. And thanks to just this curious cocktail of ocean temperatures, precise moon phases, and who knows what else, the moment hits and they rise to the surface. Here, each worm splits in half. The front half, known as the atoke, keeps on feeding, just surviving, doing its thing until next season. But the back half, the epitoke, it is entirely dedicated to reproduction. And in this final self-sacrificing act, the epitoke ruptures, releasing sperm or eggs into the ocean, ensuring that the next generation of these enigmatic little creatures will continue to carry on the legacy, even if these individual worms don't stick around for long. And millions of Nyale flood the Lombok shores, particularly concentrated on one famous beachhead. The males are this kind of reddy brown, while the females are this deep, captivating green. And this sudden surge triggers just an absolute feeding frenzy for countless marine species. It ignites this ecological boom that ripples through the local environment. And not ones to be left out, the humans participate also. The appearance of Nyale is so predictable to the weak that it has allowed the creation of Bau Nyale, this centuries-old tradition of collecting and eating these sea worms. Locals have transformed the event into this full-blown celebration. They set up camp on the beach at low tide, armed with nets, head torches, and just this irreverent spirit. Families and friends spend the night just battling it out in the elements, catching these wriggling delicacies. They shout, they curse, they cheer when waves of Nyale hit the shores. And not everyone's taking it so casually. Some of these guys are wading way out into the ocean. There's boats catching these in large quantities. And let me tell you, it's a good thing, because despite the fact that these Nyale are going to appear on a pretty timeable schedule, tonight feels like a bit of a bust. The Nyale, they already had their big show yesterday.
It seems that most of the worms have been caught over the last couple of days and not on today, which is kind of like the main festival day. You can tell that because there's a distinct lack of screaming. Apparently people here scream profanities into the air every time they catch a worm, and I don't hear that much screaming at all.
Well, nature, it doesn't really care when humans plan their festival. The locals, though, they seem pretty unfazed. This isn't just about the worms for them, it's about the tradition. It's about taking the kids out, having fun. For me, though, I want to try this food, so it's time to hit up the market.
Alright guys, when you fail to catch something in Asia, the move is just to go to the market and buy it, really. So that's where I'm at now, and luckily it seems like there are people who have managed to catch Nyale, and I might, very likely, be able to buy some. In fact, that guy said it was just 50,000 per kilo, which seems a lot easier than waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning and attempting to catch this stuff. So, let's see what we can find.
At the market, it seems like everybody is here for the same thing. Fresh Nyale, the best catch, and everyone's haggling over the corner where they're located.
It really seems like the worms are what people are here for. The Nyale, all of the locals descending upon right here to buy them. There are sort of trays and trays of it, and yeah, it's popular, really popular.
The ones pulled straight from the sea last night, they are sold live, but the day or so old worms, they can also be purchased. They get wrapped in banana leaves and either steamed or grilled into kind of patties.
Before we try this Nyale, the sort of cooked up way, we're gonna have one of these little, I don't know what you'd call this, like fried banana leaves full of the Nyale worms. There seem to be some that are loaded with spices, and then the one of these that I've seen just before, it almost looks like it's steamed. Like you're still gonna see a lot of texture in the Nyale. Am I teeth red yet? Yeah, look at this. It's kind of like just a large banana cake of steamed worm. I think this is probably the most intimidating way to eat it. It's kind of just like straight up mushy. Let's go for it. There's not much spice in that. It's very salty. It has almost like a shellfish type kind of flavor to it. You get a little bit of that grit in there. Maybe there's some sand in there or something like that. It sort of tastes like scallops or mussels, or not oyster, but yeah, it's kind of like a cross between crab and scallops. I've got to admit, it's actually pretty good. Like flavor-wise, straight up, it really has that oceany, seafoody type flavor, complete with the kind of grit you get from eating like crab or lobster. You can see why people eat this. If you can get past the fact that it's worms, it's pretty decent. And now we're getting it cooked up by one of these lovely ladies, serving it to us here with this absolutely gorgeous Indonesian backdrop. Hopefully they taste good. All right, so in here we have this sort of like raw sea worm. And before eating them in this like fried up method, I want to try some of them live. They are still squirming around in this bag, so it is kind of intimidating. Good to know though that they're still fresh, I suppose.
These worms, they can be eaten raw, and a lot of people do, but let's be real, that's not for everyone.
Oh no, it's gnarly. All right, guys, I don't know why I'm doing this. Live sea worms. There's like a giant big one here. Big green one. Let's go. All right, try to get this frame. Oh, I've moved around. That's so weird. When you eat it raw like that, you definitely get far more of an almost oyster-like flavor coming through. Maybe not too much of a surprise because it's just seawatery. Far less of that crab-like flavor. It kind of just disintegrates in your mouth. These things do not have much to them. Is a loose casing and this incredibly kind of rich seawater coming through. There are shades of maybe caviar if you wanted to be generous. It's very good.
Ya ada papa pendek ya.
Biar kelihatan begini itu maksudnya konten lalu nih.
Aneh bapak jelantah.
ayo, pelan-pelan.
Is it good?
Good.
Alright guys, to start things off, our lovely chef here, Dita, is starting to hack things away with like this little mini machete.
First, we get to work, chopping garlic, onion, chilies nice and fine. We heat up a pan, drop in the grilled worm patties, and let it sizzle. Once it's cooked enough, we pull it out and set it to the side. Now comes the good stuff. Garlic, onion, and chilies hit the pan, caramelizing it into something deep and rich. The worms go back in, soaking up all that flavor. And at this point, it smells kind of incredible.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie, this stuff smells like really, really good.
The look though, let's just say it's a little bit questionable. We're in Asia, so you know what's missing, a little bit of that magic powder, and bam, ready to serve.
What we have is this dish that smells amazing, but looks kind of sort of like black mush. It's not really the most appetizing looking dish, if I'm honest. But again, the aromas coming off this thing say something different than my eyes do. So we'll take a couple of bites. We have some rice as well. Let's go for this first one. Well, that is like an overload of flavors. This is sort of like I would say seafood curry, but it's far more grilled and charred than that. I don't know where that barbecue-y flavor has come from. I suppose because this whole banana leaf has been grilled, that makes sense. So here you get this kind of like incredible mix of like a barbecue flavor, those spices, those chilies, almost like a curry-like sort of texture. Wow, promise you, you would have no idea that this was worms if you were eating it. You would think right away that this was some kind of clam. If anything, it tastes kind of like that real scallopy flavor. Grilled scallops is pretty close to what I think this tastes like. And they obviously have some kind of sand in them because you get a little bit of grit, which again, I think really makes it mentally, gives you the connection to shellfish. You know, whenever you've eaten crab, lobster, prawns to some extent, you're gonna get a little bit of that shelly flake in there, and man, that is exactly what I'm getting come through with this dish. Maybe the kind of shocking thing to me is just, it's really good, you know?
The next dish is much of the same foundation. Garlic, onion, chilies, but this time fresh worm instead of grilled, and a little bit of a twist, coconut milk. Smoothing out the heat, turning everything into a green, velvety curry.
The worms kind of just disintegrate. There's no texture in there. The curry flavor comes through. It is really strong, really spicy, hot, really kind of meaty, which is surprising. I'm not getting as much of that seafood flavor as before. It is odd because it's sort of like eating like an overcooked spaghetti in that it is like salty, sweet, spicy. It is absolutely everything. This dish is absolute flavor overload. It is, again, I think just being able to see these worms like this, that's what makes it tricky. They have that sort of like ribbed side to them where you can see the like micro legs that line the sides of their body. Something about it. Oh, wow. These sea worms, these Nyale sea worms, there is a reason this entire island of Lombok descends on this one beach every year. Because, yeah, that's a really good flavor.
But believe it or not, Nyale worms don't come close to being the most shocking seafood out of Lombok. This island has one of the largest sharking ports in all of Asia.
Good morning, people. We are here at Tanjung Luar fish market in the sort of like east side of Lombok, Indonesia. And we're here because this is the single largest sharking port in all of Indonesia.
Lombok's so-called shark market ain't just sharks. It's an early morning chaos of loaded boats, sharp tongue-bended and tireless women hauling in the catch as fast as they can.
Guys, I don't know what it is. I can't get enough of the head carrying. It's just my kind of thing. Looks cool as hell.
The vibe is pretty raw, frantic, and it is, to me, irresistible. It's both wild and wonderfully alive, and I just cannot help but love every second of it.
All right, guys, still no sharks. One manta ray down. Not great. Really not a great start.
Unfortunately, the first day we arrive, there's not a shark in sight. These boats go out 14 days at a time and only come back once their holds are full. So we roll back in the next morning, and the processing floor this time is stuffed to the rafters with sharks. It's kind of gruesome, but this is the reality here.
All right, guys, we have just arrived at what is known as Shark Market here in Lombok. And as you can see, there are plenty of sharks. Obviously, this is part of the famous fin trade. But here in Lombok, it's not just about that. It's absolutely every single piece of the shark that is being used.
The shark fins are obviously the biggest moneymaker here. They're taken off first. The people doing it are remarkably precise. Every fin is measured, recorded, and they keep track of the species and size.
At the front here, these look to me just like some kind of white pointer standard reef shark. And at the back here, we've got all kinds of crazy looking stuff. There's one that looks like a deflated balloon. I have no idea what it is. There's one just massive ray, a huge shovelhead shark, just about everything that you could possibly imagine.
But once the fins are taken off, they do not just toss the rest of the shark.
So I've done a lot of filleting a fish in my day, but I've never seen anything quite like this. It's kind of taken apart in a series of different steps.
The shark is then gutted, saving the liver and the hearts for later use. They then literally butterfly the entire thing, slicing it in half.
It's kind of wild just seeing a whole shark like this, just straight up butterflied. Wow.
They remove the head and the backbone. And finally, they skin it.
It's pretty crazy. What you're left with is just these blankets of sharks that are lying around on this floor here.
Bottom line, here, nothing goes to waste.
All right, guys, hear me out. I know it looks kind of crazy and kind of brutal, and maybe this is a bad zag, but I've always heard that shark fin, and shark fin soup especially, is the most evil thing on earth. But, and hear me out, I get it, this is probably a bad angle to take. It does seem to me that here in Lombok, every single bit of the shark is being used. It's not like those evil videos you see where they fin the shark, they chuck it back into the ocean and it bleeds out as it sort of heads down to the abyss.
So you guys, you know the deal. We've all seen the footage. They're wasting more than 95% of the animal just to save on cargo space. It is cruel. It is a terrible, terrible waste. And it is hated around the world for good reason. There's other complications also. Sharks reproduce really slowly. It makes their numbers really tricky to manage. They're also the apex predator, so any big drop in their population triggers that kind of ripple effect throughout the entire marine ecosystem.
Take my friend Ray. Ray likes to eat scallops, and this shark likes to eat Ray and his friends. So no shark, and it's an all-you-can-eat scallop Ray buffet.
No, here, everything is getting used. They're turning the hearts into oil for medicine. They're eating and smoking the meat. The skin is even dried. Hell, the bluefin tuna that is probably just as endangered that you're eating at home right now probably has far less of its body parts used than the sharks here in Lombok.
Sure, I wish things here were way better regulated. Officially, there are only 3 shark or ray species here that are truly off limits, and yet I've already seen rays hauled out without anybody batting an eyelid. So I'm guessing that enforcement here is kind of spotty, to say the least. And I'd rather see true regulation brought in place. But I think that if you are going to eat shark meat, then doing it how the locals do here in Lombok, I think it's a little bit more ethically justifiable. And it is remarkable what they do. Let's roll. The volume of shark meat harvested here is so large that the meat must head straight to these massive factory-style smokehouses for processing.
All right, guys, believe it or not, this giant warehouse in front of me is one giant shark meat processing plant. Every single part of the sharks that have come into Lombok, that have been harvested, They are going to be used for everything you can imagine. Let's find out exactly how it goes down. And let's eat some shark. Local shark. Interesting. Not the shark fin soup stuff. Don't kill me on this, right? Shark was already dead. All right, what might be the most gory area? This is the part where the heads are getting sliced up. Heads are like the most kind of meaty, bloody looking part of it. And yeah, it adds a little bit of funk to the process. It's kind of a remarkable place, guys. You've just got these kind of like butchery stations everywhere. There's like bone in this corner, more fillets over here. I see whole sharks way back there. Actually, there's an indoor smoker here, perhaps for when it's, I don't know, when it's absolutely filled with sharks. And everything starts out here. The meat, which just comes all the way from the market, already skinned in these just giant fillets. And from here, we start breaking it down into skewerable sizes.
To start off, the shark fillets are soaked in coolers. They're then pulled out and sliced into these big, long chunks. Next, a squad of women go to just town with bamboo skewers, threading on those big chunks of shark meat like they've done it a million times. And they are doing a massive amount of shark meat skewers.
Some of this shark, they're telling me, even has the spine. So like even the one bit of like bone in a shark, if it's just not cartilage, even that's getting cooked up. These sell for 5,000 per skewer.
So you end up with this huge rack of shark meat skewers that need cooking. And that's where the smoking or grilling process comes in.
All right, once the meat has been sliced and skewered, we arrive at just this monstrous smoker here.
Everything here is grilled using dried corn cobs. They smolder away and they crank out just a ton of smoke.
All right, so the fuel of choice is the husk of corn. Obviously, the corn is fed to animals or eaten in some Indonesian dish, but all around the outside of this building, it's just kind of lined with dried husks.
And they cook the shark skewers in massive batches. You'll see these grills lined all the way around buildings. This whole place is like a maze of smokehouses. Every time you turn a corner, there's a new room. There's something just grilling away.
Each of these is apparently run by like an individual family. So it's kind of like a communal factory with sub-businesses within it. Oh my God. Hi guys, as you can see in these kind of just like intense micro smoke rooms, you just have one big barbecue here, chimneys up top, corn as the fuel. And yeah, we are just grilling up thousands and thousands of skewers today.
They're filling up basket after basket of them, ready to be transported to the markets all over Lombok.
Guys, these things now, they've been cooking for a good, I'd say 20 minutes. She was underestimating. And they're coming off by the absolute bucket load. Right now, we're filling up trays after trays, hundreds and hundreds of these shark skewers. I think it's time to try one. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna get out of there because that is like smoky as all hell. But there it is, guys. It is kind of like a, I've got to admit, pretty good looking skewer. It's nicely sort of browned off on one side, looks pretty flaky on the other side. If you didn't know any better, you would say this was a chicken skewer. All right, here we go. I'm like crying from the smoke. Interesting. That is so unique. You know, I thought that that was going to be like a really fishy flavor, but it's not fishy at all. All right, there's a little bit of fish in there. It's like it reminds me of swordfish. Like if you've ever had large slabs of swordfish, it's really meaty. It's not all that flaky, but it doesn't just kind of turn into mush. Honestly, that flavor, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good. And yeah, I can see why you would eat this. It's not bad. Maybe there's a reason these people on Lombok are not throwing out the rest of these sharks. This is pretty good food and it gets served all around Lombok in different markets. There you go, shark.
And it's more than just the meat that ends up on the plate. They dry the shark skins as well.
All right, so in here, guys, is like another one of those drying rooms. You see just this skin after skin after skin line the walls of this place. It is kind of wild. This entire giant factory just has shark parts everywhere. All of the skins of the sharks are hung along here. I mean, I think this is one of the most impressive parts of the process to me, is that just like shark skins are dried until they are super crispy apparently. And they're actually served as crackers, if you can believe it or not. Shark fin crackers. Maybe I'll serve that at my next dinner party. Bit of caviar on top, some cheese. What do you guys think? Think it's gonna go down well? In this facility, you do see the fins just hanging up, drying around, but that's because these are from undesirable species. At the market, they are carefully measuring and taking note of the exact species, length, size, weight of all of the fins, because obviously that stuff can sell for astronomical amounts. So it's saying some of the shark fins here sell for as much as 5 million Indonesian rupees. You can imagine, that is massive money. That's obviously the primary business. This is sort of an offshoot of it, whereby Lombok gets the protein from the rest of the shark. But it is notable to me that some species, it's just, they're eaten purely for the meat, because the fins that are drying here, that's just for these guys. That's not getting exported. There's no market for it. How long has he done this business for?
Since he was a kid, his parents been doing it, his grandfather already doing it.
Huh, wow.
Honestly, I'm not sure if the shark meat industry here would be around if it were not for the demand on the fins. But it doesn't look like the trade here is going to be stopping anytime soon. They've been doing it here for generations, and the meat is incredibly popular all over the island. Of course, I wish that they had tighter rules and regulations, better control over which species and how many were taken. But at least here, absolutely nothing is going to waste. They're using every bit of the shark.